Hey, it's the Midnight Raven, and today we are doing Ghost Stories with Raven, and today it's the Witch's Mark. Now, I haven't done a ghost story for a few weeks. I'm sorry, I've had a little bit of issues here and there, but I am back, and we're going to do a ghost story. So, this is the Witch's Mark. So if you know anything about witchcraft or Salem, this will be a perfect story for you. So, if you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm the Midnight Raven. I do videos every day on YouTube and Instagram, so if you want to check them out and if you want to help the channel in any way, all the information is down in the description. So let's get into the video. So the Witch's Mark. So the year was 1692. 13 people in total at that time had been hung for witchcraft in Salem, Massachusetts. It was a matter of concern for Colonel Bucks that villagers should be vigilant in stomping out witches. There was an accusation about a withered old lady who looked every bit like a witch because of her frail, pale face, her nose, and just her look. The old lady was put on trial for being a witch, and a huge crowd arrived at her trial. Of course, the courtroom was filled with people shouting guilty, and obviously back then witches didn't really have many people rooting for them, whether they were a witch or not. So Colonel Bucks was looking for a guilty verdict, and of course he sat in the courtroom whispering to the magistrates, "This woman you see here, she's a witch," that kind of thing, basically putting his point across. So a few witnesses took to the stand on whether this woman was actually a witch and looked to the colonel for approval on everything they were saying. Obviously, these witnesses had been pre-spoken to by the colonel and had fabricated stories to make out that this woman was a witch. So while testifying, one witness had said that she had heard the old lady muttering something that sounded like gibberish. Well, that sounds like most people in modern day talk gibberish, but another witness, mind you, claimed to have seen a tall figure standing in her home's doorway. Possibly the devil had been talking to the old lady one foggy evening. Okay, so she's having the devil do house calls now? So these two witnesses had stood in the dock giving this testimony that this old lady was in fact a witch and that she'd been having nightly calls from Satan himself. So the old lady then jumped to her feet and pointed a finger and screamed, "I curse no other being, but I can lay a curse on you, sir," directed at Colonel Bucks, "because you and your toadies have lied and led me to the gallows." So this was obviously a personal threat on Colonel Bucks, along with the two witnesses who had obviously, I'm guessing, being paid to talk against her. She then said, "Mark you this, and mark ye well, when you go to the grave, which will be soon, I pledge you I shall leave the footprint of my foot on your gravestone." So the print that will be placed on your gravestone will stay there forever. So the world can never end this. So the belief was that this was a threat. And of course, the colonel was kind of worried. Witches threatening you, probably not a good way to go about it, even if she wasn't a witch. So the bailiff put his hand over the witch's mouth, and she was taken out of the courtroom. The old lady was, of course, found guilty of being a witch. Of course she was. And she was hanged the next morning because obviously back then people were scared of the devil, people were scared of witchcraft. These people like Colonel Bucks would tell anybody that would listen that there were witches, that they'd put a curse on their house, they'd curse your children, they'd curse your flock. your cattle would die, you would die. They literally just barrage you with brainwashing Salem witch stuff. So after the lady was hanged the next morning, 3 months later, Colonel Bucks would die from a wasting disease. And in his will, he had left instructions for a marble headstone. Days later, a cemetery worker would place the headstone on his grave in the cemetery. Nothing seemed untoward. A few days later, a person came to pay respects to Colonel Bucks and found there were footprints in the marble on the headstone. The kind of footprints that the witch had said would be forever on his headstone. So, the people tried to remove the footprints. They took the headstone back, they tried to remove them, and they couldn't remove them. So the relatives decided to make another headstone. Maybe somebody was playing a practical joke. So they made another headstone, took it back to the graveyard again, and within days, the footprints on the gravestone had arrived once again. And at this point in time, the family didn't make a new headstone. They obviously took the witch's threat seriously, that if they continued to make headstones, the footprints would be forever on his grave because he had sent her to the gallows. So the old lady's footprints remained on Colonel Buck's tomb indefinitely. The family didn't seek to get a new tombstone, and the footprints are still on Colonel Buck's tombstone to this day. Now, what's the lesson of this ghost story? Maybe not mess with witches. Was she a witch? Was she not a witch? That seems to be the question. Anyone could be putting those footprints on the gravestone. It could have been a friend, a relative, who just drawed the footprints on there and everything. But could she have been a witch? Was the colonel right? Would we ever know? I mean, anyone can draw a footprint on a grave and continuously do it. You know, who knows? Was she a witch? Wasn't she a witch? We shall never know. But this is the witch's mark. So my advice, if you're in Salem or just in general, maybe not mess with witches. They have some dark undertones to them. Maybe just not mess with them, or even attempt to mess with them would be your best bet. Leave well alone, or forever have footprints on your gravestone. But this is the Midnight Raven. These are ghost stories with Raven. This is the witch's mark. If you want to help the channel in any way, a PayPal, a super chat, a super thanks. All time and effort goes into my researching and filming and editing. If you want to like and subscribe, that would be amazing. I do content every day on YouTube and Instagram, and I will see you very soon for another ghost story very soon. Take care and thanks for watching. Bye, guys.